Hello and welcome to Elite Authors. I am Jessica Carolyn, host and award-winning author. We are so glad you joined us here today on Elite Authors. And on this show, you'll hear about the inspiring stories and of authors, and their journey to publishing. We'll learn more about their book and the great impact that they are having on this world. Today, we actually have a world impactor, Dr. Jaleesa Barnes, and she is the doctor of psychology and graduate of Alfred University. Today, she is going to talk to us about her new book, Sometimes I'm Sad. Welcome to Elite Authors, Dr. Jaleesa, AKA Dr. Jolly.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. When I heard that you were having a book coming out, I had to first congratulate you because it's super dope. Not too many people actually take the next step and, they have a book on their mind, they're thinking about it, but they don't take that next step and actually do it. So I congratulate you for taking that step and getting your book out there.
I appreciate that for sure. Thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
Absolutely. So, first, just tell us a little bit about you, who you are, what you do, and a little bit about your book.
Okay, so professionally, I am a school psychologist. I currently work at a private practice as a psychotherapist. Um, my book is called Sometimes I'm Sad, and it's primarily about a girl who's suffering from depressive symptoms. So I won't outright say she had depression, but she was sad for a really long time, and she had a really hard time uh, managing it and dealing with it. And that inspiration, or the inspiration for the book, came from my work as a school psychologist in schools, as well as in private practice as a clinical psychotherapist.
Okay.
I work with a lot of children. I work with a lot of families. When I was in school, I did resign in 2021. But there was a lot of disconnect between children's social emotional well-being and the adults understanding what it is when they were dealing with it. So a lot of the time when kids are sad, it comes out behaviorally, it comes out through attitude. They might be unfocused, they might have all these other things. So you saw a lot of adults just kind of scrambling, trying to really deal with the symptoms, but not really dealing with the root of it. So that was kind of the root basis for the book. I did write it during COVID, but you asked me about me. Also, I am a born and raised Brooklyn girl. I am saved. I am a saved Christian because a lot of people are
Amen.
Christian, but
Listen.
I'm
Yes,
saved. I
yes,
do serve
yes.
as the youth minister of my church at Salvation and Restoration Christian Church of God in Christ. What else? I love to read. I've always had a book attached to my hand, even as a little child. And, I everywhere I went, my reputation preceded me as the girl with the book. 'Cause if you said the girl with the book, you could probably look over it, and there I was sitting. Um, yeah. So yeah, I like to read. I like to crochet. I like to spend time with family. I'm a very kind of low key, chill person. I'm very introverted, even though a lot of people don't believe me at first. And that's actually something I had to learn about myself. Yeah, but that's who I am. I don't know if that's enough information, maybe too much.
No, that's good. That's good. And you were the girl with the book, and now you are the girl with the book. Sometimes I'm sad. So this is the book here, and we'll tell you guys how to get it in just a moment. But this book is about a 9-year-old girl named Carrie. I have the chance of reading this book, and I absolutely, honestly fell in love with it because it not only tells a story of a 9-year-old Carrie, but this can be the story of a 39-year-old person or a 50-year-old person. It kind of crosses the age because you now get to see some of the symptoms that your child is going through, or your best friend is going through, or
Mhm.
your sibling is going through. So talk to us a little bit about some of the things that people can expect to read in the book.
Well, I wrote the book because, so I guess continuing the story I started earlier, when I saw a lot of kids dealing with who demonstrated some depressive symptoms, but it might have come out differently.
Mhm.
Um, there was also that struggle of, well, how can you connect to them? Because they're such big feelings, and they don't always have the words to articulate exactly what's going on. And as I moved more toward private practice where actual therapy, play therapy, talk therapy, bibliotherapy became my main forms of interactions with children, I almost always incorporate books because it's really easy sometimes to speak through the character or speak to the
Yeah.
character than it is to say, verbally, I feel sad or I feel anxious or this scares me, this frustrates me.
Mhm.
And so it's a good way to kind of get insight when a child isn't quite ready to take ownership of their own emotions. Anyway, so um, during the rise of COVID, and this had already been on top of my observations in school, there are a lot more kids who were demonstrating higher levels of depression, higher levels of anxiety. And I found that I couldn't really find literature that spoke directly to childhood depression in a child's voice.
Okay.
There's a lot of books about dealing with children who have depression for parents, for teachers, and providers. But there wasn't a whole lot. I found maybe two or three viable books
Wow.
that I could use in practice. And so, I just wrote a story one day and decided that I wanted it to be a book.
Mhm.
And I shared it with a few friends. Actually, I actually shouted him out in my acknowledgements page, but it was a 13-year-old young man, and his mother read it, and she identified with a lot of the behaviors, and then she let him read it,
Okay.
and he actually said that was very detailed and accurate. And I said that almost verbatim.
Wow.
And he was relating to her feelings, the feelings that she expresses in the book. Um, so yeah, that was kind of where that came from.
Okay. Okay. So you
Mhm.
had a 13-year-old, which is good. If you're
Mhm.
going to write something that's going to appeal to that market, then it's
Mhm.
great that you had him to kind of back it up and,
Mhm.
solidify the need. So, like you said, his mom read it first and then he read it, which is
Mhm.
perfect because this book speaks to both the child and the adult. You have a little
Mhm.
a letter on the back of the book,
Mhm.
and it just kind of details everything and sharing with them and also giving them resources and things that they should do, tips on what they should notice. So
Mhm.
um, for a parent who's listening, what kind of tips, they don't have the book just yet, but what kind of
Mhm.
tips, just top two tips that they can look for in their child's behavior or mood?
I usually say look for things that tend to be drastic and prolonged. One of the things that I highlight right away is that, children grow and they go through different phases and changes, and sometimes it's hard to pinpoint what's developmental versus what's like a problem. So yeah, if they have a fight with a friend and then they make up the next week, or they might even decide they don't want to be friends with that person anymore, but they have like other friends, okay,
Right,
fine. But if they had like six friends and then 3 months later, they don't talk to anybody, and that goes for another 3, 4 months, we want to look into that. We
right,
want to
right.
find out what's going on, what's happening. So I tend to say look for drastic and prolonged changes in behavior and appetite, sleep, those types of things.
Mhm.
And then, my general rule is behavior is communication. So if there is an issue with a behavior, or you're trying to correct or discipline something and it's a persistent situation, your child's communicating with you. Something is off. Something's not working for them. And so you need to work together with them and with whoever else is working with them and with you and your family, your village, and identify what they're communicating so that you can respond.
Yeah, yeah. The village is important to have everybody come
Mm-hmm.
in and lift that child up and give them exactly what they need. And you find that, and sometimes I'm sad, you have the character interacting with her siblings, interacting with her parents. The parents brings her to a doctor, and now they're communicating with the teachers, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody is aware. So it's not just the child and you, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also everyone else that the child is connected to and how they can partner with you to help that child.
Yeah.
So Do you see that teachers are in the school are
Mhm.
willing to assist the parents when they find out that their child may be going through something?
I'd say most teachers. I've seen some really good teachers that would, set up their classroom or, really work with the child where they are. And again, a lot of it is them understanding where they are
Right.
and what they need. The teacher makes the difference. Administrators make a difference because I've also seen where teachers might have attempted something, but they got blocked by admin. So we're talking about the principal or the vice principal, and they may not be aware of why this child might need this accommodation. And so they'll put a stop to things. That was actually one of my biggest frustrations when I was working in the school because everybody doesn't understand everything all the time.
Right.
But I've definitely seen some really great teachers who are able to, once they're aware, they like hone in on it, they take charge,
Excellent.
and the kids have a great year.
That's excellent. That's, the village is important. I know, at least for the children. And of course, once they're children, they'll learn to value their village as well when they get older.
Mhm.
Because even us, we're older, we need our village as well. It never ends. Um,
Absolutely.
I'm flipping through the book as I was reading it. One of the things that popped out, and I don't want to show it because I really want people to go pick up their own copy of
Mhm.
the book. But you have this one page. One, the illustrator was phenomenal, really
I love my illustrator.
portrayed, I guess, your vision for the book. But
Thank
you have one page in here that has Kelly, and she is at this point, Carrie, excuse me, at
you.
this point says, maybe I shouldn't even exist. And
Mhm.
she's walking, and it's almost like she's becoming invisible as she walks.
Mhm.
Because this is how children feel, especially when they think no one understands them and what they're going through.
Mhm.
So tell me just a little bit about seeing a child where they are.
Mhm. I mean, that's a very layered
Yeah.
concept, but I will try to keep it concise. Um, Again, as I said a few minutes ago, behavior is communication. I believe that behavior is communication. And again, kids can't always verbally find the words to match to their behavior. So what I see adults doing and saying a lot is, well, why?
Mhm.
Why did you do that? Why are you being like this? Why you know better? What's the
Yeah.
problem? And it's kind of like if they know better, but they're not doing what they know, then there's a disconnect somewhere, and we have to figure out what the disconnect is. A lot of the time, they have a hard time regulating their thought process. They have a hard time regulating their emotions. A lot of kids don't feel safe to emote because they get shut down. And I see a lot of well meaning adults kind of shutting kids down. There's a term called toxic positivity.
Wow.
And what that
Explain that.
is what's that?
Explain that.
Yeah, so toxic positivity is essentially if I say to you, I'm really nervous about something, and you go, "Oh, you don't have anything to be nervous about. You got it." Now you're
Uh,
trying to encourage me, but the way you're doing it, you're kind of shutting me down, right?
okay. Yeah.
Versus
Yeah.
validating that, yeah, this is something that if I have a big test coming up, I can understand why you might be nervous. What
Right.
can we do to help you feel the most prepared? And you still might feel a little nervous, but at least you know you did everything you could to prepare for it. And then you can say, well, I have faith in you. I think you're going to do it. I think you're going to do well, but in that way you're making the person feel safe to feel how they feel without feeling like they're going to be shut down or dismissed. So
Wow.
one thing is I always try to promote listen first. Try to pick up on, like I said, that's why I love bibliotherapy. I love reading books with children. I usually try to find stories that match whatever's going on in their lives. And then I'll say, how do you think they feel? What's
Hmm.
going on with that person? And a lot of the time, just through the conversation, they'll just let little tidbits slip out. So one, connect with them where they are, whatever mode you have to use, whether it's conversation, whether it's books, whether it's toys, play, right? There's usually some way that you can connect and listen to
Right.
little things, that listen to how they come to conclusions. I actually had a kid in my office yesterday, and he said, he's one of three, and he said something like, "Yeah, I'm their most annoying kid."
Oh,
And the parent kind of almost missed it, and I said, "Well, wait. Do you really feel that you really think you're the most annoying?" And then that gave the parent an opportunity to connect with him and kind of correct that narrative. Like, no, you're not the most annoying. So listen. Listen, observe. You might have to be a scientist first, you might have to be a detective first and a disciplinarian second. But you help kids feel seen by seeing them.
absolutely. Yep. Point blank, period. Absolutely. And, unfortunately, we have, let me get this statistic that you have 13 million children in the United States have a diagnosed mental, behavioral, or developmental disorder. And that's just diagnosed. It's not all those children that have been missed. And, parents can't pick up on it.
Yeah.
So communication, I guess, will just help, that number come down, and we'll see a decrease in that number. Awesome job. Just all the way through, just awesome job. What was your favorite part about writing?
Um, Honestly, how quickly the story came together. I pretty much wrote that whole story in about 2 hours.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, because once I just started writing, and I just really just pulled on my experiences, honestly, both my experiences as a professional and as a former kid who
Right.
had big feelings and didn't necessarily know how to express them. And so it was a personal story, but it came out really quick. And so that was always kind of my favorite thing. And then once I did start sharing it, because I did get, I did test it out with some people, and all the feedback that I got really encouraged me to keep going, and finish it because it was needed.
It was needed. It's needed. It'll never not be needed. Sometimes I'm sad. Again, we'll share in just a second on how you can pick up your copy. So for the person who's watching and they're thinking about writing a book and they have not put their foot forward just yet, what kind of advice would you give them to actually take the plunge?
I mean, write your story. The biggest thing is the story, honestly. Everything else came later. The publisher came later. The illustrations came later, but write, even if it's a sentence, I do have a couple of other things I'm working on. I don't want to say any titles yet, but I'm like, okay, I literally at one point was just like opening up Word documents and titling them and closing them out. I didn't even write anything yet, but
Yeah.
if the vision is there, write it down, document it. Don't just let it fly out of your head. And slow by, bit by bit, build your story, write your story.
That's
Um,
good.
and the other stuff kind of falls in place.
Absolutely. It really does. I guess, just start, like you said, just get a title or just a word, a sentence, anything helps, especially if it's on your heart, especially if it's a God-given vision and, it's a book that's going to change someone's life. If it's going to help them progress in this life, it's definitely something that's needed. So go ahead and start even today. And there's so many different ways that you can write. If you don't have a laptop right in front of you and you're on the go, get your phone. Everyone has a cell phone.
Journal,
A journal, a
iPad,
notebook,
yeah,
anything. You can actually
voice notes.
everything. You utilize everything, and it will help you to just jot down your thoughts and then worry about how you align it later. Start small and then think about the bigger picture later. So thank you again. Tell people how they can get your book.
It is available on Amazon. You can also email me at Dr. Jolly Books, DRJALI Books at gmail.com if you want a signed autographed copy sent to you directly, and we'll go from there. So you can either Amazon or email me.
Awesome. Guys, go ahead and check out the book. Make sure you email Dr. Jolly to get your signed copy. Sometimes I'm sad. I promise that it will not disappoint. Thank you, Dr. Jolly, for joining us today on Elite Authors and talking a little bit about your book. And we look forward to your upcoming books for sure. We can't wait we're just going to say books and just go ahead, just keep producing them because you're absolutely impacting not just your community, but the world. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for joining and tuning in to Elite Authors. You can catch us at the top of every month with a new and fascinating author each and every month. So tune in next time here on Elite Authors.